Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here at the Live Studios in Radha Lane, next to Sri Sri Radha Nilamadhava's gorgeous temple. On this auspicious day, Nityananda Trayodasi, Nitai, Jai Nitai, Nityananda Ram Ki Jai. There's all kinds of programs and people out here and there, and looked like the weather might have turned good one day for a change, so who knows. Actually, truth be told, we're here because of Lord Nityananda. Absolutely. I mean, Lord Nityananda appeared in Radhadesh. Radhadesh is the name of the area where the Ganges doesn't flow. And it's considered to be, in the learned circles in that area, to be not such an auspicious place because the Ganges doesn't flow there. So purposefully, Nityananda Prabhu appeared there to make it the most auspicious place. And what's the name of his place? Ekachakradam, yes. So, and he, obviously his parents, Hodai Pandit and Padmavati were, we can't imagine how attached they were to him, because he was the most beautiful, amazing, mystic, little boy. He knew all the pastimes of and he got all of his friends to do, dramas, and he knew details that nobody knew. They wondered where he learned all this stuff. And then this one sannyasi came to visit them, and he was 12 years old at that time. So at 12 years old, he arranged to be able to be free from family life. So when the sannyasi, because he was very Hodai Pandit, the mother of God, he's mother and father of God. They were so pious and religious, so they treated a sannyasi like you treat a sannyasi when you have a guest in your home, and whatever you want, please let me do. I'll give you anything you want. What is it? And he says, at the end of the visit, he said, oh, by the way, you can give me your son. I need a brahmachari assistant. I'm traveling around. I don't have anybody to help me. And he practically died, separation. But anyway, he was 12. So then he started to travel around India. And he traveled for 20 years before he met up with Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya took Sanjay at 24. So that's 32. There's at least 8 years difference, and maybe more, maybe some more. And after he traveled around with this sannyasi, and we don't really know, there's nothing directly about it in China. There's speculation, but that maybe it was, Vishwarup, and but it's just speculation. There's nothing clear in Shastra about that. But he ended up traveling around all different places, and then he went to Vrindavan, and he just stayed in Vrindavan, waiting for Lord Chaitanya to come out and start his Sankirtan movement. And then, of course, he was going out door to door and house to house and all over with Haridas Thakur as his partner. Imagine what a Sankirtan team that was, Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur. Doesn't get any more potent than that. Who's your Sankirtan leader? Lord Nityananda. Who's on your team? Haridas Thakur. So they were out preaching, and they saw these two ferocious characters, and they asked about who they were. There was a commotion in the market. They couldn't see what was going on. There's all these two drunken brothers, Jagai and Madai. They're always creating, disturbances. And they were dangerous. They were from Brahmin families, but they were dangerous. They were drunkards and woman hunters, and they would even kill people who didn't do what they act like they wanted them to. They described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat to be the most sinful persons on the earth at the time. And then, of course, there's that famous incident where Lord Nityananda thought, out of service to Lord Chaitanya, he thought, if we can deliver these characters, that will glorify Lord Chaitanya. So this is his mentality of being the servant of Lord Chaitanya. But they approached him and they chased him away, and they were like very violent. So they ran away and they came to Lord Chaitanya evening, and Lord Chaitanya said, "Oh, very happy to see you do this, deliver them, then we can deliver everyone if we can deliver them." So they went back and they saw him again, and this time Madai, he was viciously angry, and they were drinking liquor in a pot. That's what they were doing. They were drinking liquor in an earthen pot. And he threw the pot at Lord Nityananda, and it was very heavy, and it struck him, and damaged him. Well, Haribol Maharaj, welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome anytime. We can put Giriraj Maharaj's chair there, and you can come and sit with us.
Sends his regards. He finally called.
Oh, fantastic! Did you tell him how much I missed him?
Association and invite you over.
Yeah, right.
He'll be right over.
Yeah, I'll be right over as soon as I get out of the.
Surfing on that magma.
Well, yeah.
You're in the Philippines, surfed on.
Well, no. First of all, you got to get through the viruses.
Yeah.
You go anywhere now. I mean, it's really tightening up.
Mars in China or the Philippines?
All over the world, actually. There's one ship from Japan that's docked somewhere. I don't know the detail. That has more cases in one place than any other place, and they're all quarantined on this boat. It's the big SARS thing that happened before. It's already surpassed that in a much shorter time than SARS. So it's serious. It's serious. Even in Mayapur, devotees can't come, and they're having to reshuffle, and looks like Vaishnav may get an extra, Vaishnav might get an extra, seminar out of it. It's positive. Anyway, so Lord Chaitanya, immediately when he understood what had happened, he came there on the spot, and he was standing over Madai, ready to kill him. Sudarshan chakra on his finger, ready to kill him. And then what happened? Lord Nityananda, he bowed down to Lord Chaitanya and said, "Please don't kill him, because you didn't come here. If you kill him, you'll have to kill everybody." And then Jagai, seeing this, how merciful Lord Nityananda was, he bowed down to Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. And because he bowed down, Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya spared them. So in Shastra it says that the mercy of Lord Nityananda is unlimited. But the one thing you have, the one qualification you have to have, you must bow down. If you're too proud to bow down, it's not that just everyone's going to become Krishna conscious just because we chant Hare Krishna. It's only one who are humble enough to bow down. They can get that mercy. Anyway, there they were, and Prabhupada came out, India, inspired by Lord Nityananda's mercy, and here we are. If it wasn't for Lord Nityananda, and it's clearly said in Shastra, without Lord Nityananda's mercy, you can't become free from sin, you can't get Lord Chaitanya's mercy, you can't get the six Goswamis' mercy, and therefore you can't understand anything about Radha and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Okay, that's my Lord Nityananda rap for today. Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam Ihima Stotram Srila Sanatana Goswami's prayer to the Bhagavatam that we read every day like clock. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidwan Dodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Manistadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin adini chochata kada hanamun jagadachin mam premna rit kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we've reached the 8th chapter of the 11th canto, and we're beginning with text 7. The Avaduta Brahman is continuing to enlighten Yadu Maharaj about how he became enlightened by studying with his own intelligence the various features of this material world. Text 7. One who has failed to control his senses immediately feels attraction upon seeing a woman's form, which is created by the illusory energy of the Lord. Indeed, when the woman speaks with enticing words, smiles coquettishly, and moves her body sensually, his mind is immediately captured, and thus he falls blindly into the darkness of material existence, just as the moth, maddened by the fire, rushes blindly into its flames. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains in this regard that just as a moth is killed by its attraction to the form of fire, similarly a bee can easily be killed by exploiting its attraction to the fragrance of flowers. Furthermore, hunters may trap and kill an elephant by exploiting its sensuous desire to touch a captive female elephant, and may also kill a deer by attracting it with the sounds of their horns. And a fish is killed by its desire to taste the bait on a hook. Thus, one who desires to learn detachment from material illusion should accept these 5 helpless creatures as guru and learn the needful. Certainly, one who is lusty to enjoy the illusory form of woman will be quickly buried in material illusion. Of the 5 types of fatal attraction involving material sense objects, the lessons of rupa, or form, is illustrated in this verse. Text 8. A foolish man with no discrimination is immediately aroused at the sight of a woman beautifully decorated with golden ornaments, fine clothing, and other accoutrements. Being eager for sense gratification, such a fool loses all intelligence and is destroyed just like a moth rushing into a blazing fire. Purport. Actually, women have the power to attract men through all of the material senses. Men become lusty by seeing the body of a woman, by smelling her fragrance, by hearing her voice, by tasting her lips, and by touching her body. However, this foolish relationship based on material sex attraction begins by seeing, and thus rupa, or form, is very prominent in the process of ruining one's intelligence. This fact has been exploited in modern times by huge pornography industries which prey on unfortunate men and women. The example of the foolish moth rushing into the fire and destroying itself is most appropriate in this regard. For one who becomes addicted to the momentary pleasure of sex indulgence certainly loses his power to understand the spiritual reality behind dull matter. A lusty person becomes blind and foolish through sex indulgence, and his soul is lost in the fire of sense gratification. This whole disaster can be avoided by taking seriously to the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his empowered representatives, such as Srila Prabhupada, have created a movement to save people from the dungeon of material life, and we should all seriously take advantage of this opportunity. So just, I want to little point of information. I just read the purport to Madhya Lila, 19th chapter. Lord Chaitanya is instructing Rupa Goswami, and he's talking about the holy name. And there, it's text 160, and there he paraphrases Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's purport, commentary. And he says, if one does not try to avoid offenses, he doesn't say avoid it, he says try to avoid offenses. And then there's a whole list of things that happen, one after another sequentially. And it's an amazing list. I won't read it all now, we don't have time. But you should read it, because the list enumerates all the individual and collective problems that our movement has had, period. I remember I read this out twice in public, once at that fateful 1985 meeting in New Vrindavan, during when the whole reform movement started. And anyway, and then one other time in Dallas, in one of the temple president's GBC meetings, I read it out as the actual thing that needs to be learned in order for us to solve our problems. Because unless we try to avoid offenses, then all sorts of things happen, even though we're chanting Hare Krishna. Huh? It's Madhya 19, 160. You'd be good to read it. You'd be a good person to read and write about it, because it's really potent, powerful. Text 9. A saintly person should accept only enough food to keep his body and soul together. He should go from door to door, accepting just a little bit of food from each family. Thus, he should practice the occupation of the bumblebee. Purport. Sometimes a bumblebee is attracted by the extraordinary aroma of a particular lotus flower and lingers there, neglecting his usual activity of flying from flower to flower. Unfortunately, at sunset, the lotus flower closes, and thus the infatuated bumblebee is trapped. Similarly, a sannyasi or brahmachari may discover that excellent food is available in a particular house. And therefore, instead of wandering from place to place, he may become a veritable resident of such a well-fed householder. Thus he will become bewildered by the illusion of family life and fall down from the platform of renunciation. Also, if a mendicant takes unfair advantage of the Vedic custom of charity and takes it too often from a single family, the resentment he causes will disturb the social order. An ideal sage should, like the bumblebee, travel from place to place, but he must be careful not to become a chubby bee. Prabhupada didn't like fat sannyasis. A chubby bee, by going to too many houses and eating sumptuously at each house. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, such a chubby bee will undoubtedly become entangled in the network of Maya. No one should be overly attached to the gratification of his tongue, because this will lead to an overstuffed belly and then uncontrollable lust. In conclusion, one should not endeavor very much for material sense gratification, but should instead endeavor strenuously to spread the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna. This is the proper use of human energy. Text 10. Just as the bumblebee takes nectar from all flowers, big and small, an intelligent human being should take the essence from all religious scriptures. Purport. In human society, the original knowledge is called Veda, and the essential part of Veda, or knowledge, is Krishna consciousness. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedaish Jasarvair Aham Eva Vedyaha. From the bumblebee, an intelligent human being should learn to take the essence, or nectar, of all knowledge. A bumblebee does not waste its time trying to carry away an entire bush or garden, but rather takes the essential nectar. We may thus study the difference between the bumblebee and the ass, who carries heavy loads. Education does not mean to become an intellectual ass, carrying heavy loads of useless knowledge. Rather, one should accept the essential knowledge that leads to an eternal life of bliss and understanding. At the present time, people generally have a sectarian concept of religion, and yet there is no scientific understanding of the absolute truth. Such complacent, dogmatic, sectarian religionists can certainly learn something from the example of the honeybee given in this verse. Text 11. A saintly person should not think, this food I will keep to eat tonight, and this other food I can save for tomorrow. In other words, a saintly person should not store food acquired by begging. Rather, he should use his own hands as his plate and eat whatever fits on them. There you go. His only storage container should be his belly, and whatever conveniently fits into his belly should be his stock of food. Thus, one should not imitate the greedy honeybee who eagerly collects more and more honey. Purport. There are two types of bees: bumblebees, who collect nectar from flowers but do not make honey, and honeybees, who manufacture honey in the beehive. This verse refers to the honeybees. The greedy honeybee eventually collects so much honey that he is trapped in his hive. And in the same way, a materialistic person becomes trapped under the burden of unnecessary material accumulation. One who is interested in making spiritual progress should avoid such a situation. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that for the purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness, one may accumulate an unlimited amount of material opulence. This is called yukta vairagya, or using everything in the service of Krishna. A saintly person who is unable to work in Lord Chaitanya's mission should practice austerities and collect only what he can hold in his hands and belly. However, one who has given his life to Krishna may collect unlimitedly on Lord Krishna's behalf. In fact, without acquiring material opulence, how is it possible to spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world? But if one tries to personally enjoy the funds or facilities acquired for the missionary activities of the Krishna consciousness movement, he commits the greatest offense. Therefore, even in the name of Lord Krishna, one should collect only what he can immediately engage in practical devotional service. Otherwise, he will fall down to the platform of ordinary greediness. Text 12. A saintly mendicant should not even collect food to eat later in the same day or the next day. If he disregards this injunction, and like the honeybee, collects more and more delicious food, that which he has collected will indeed ruin him. Purport. The word brahmara, the word brahmara refers to the bumblebee who wanders about from flower to flower, collecting as much nectar as he needs. And the makshika is the honeybee, who accumulates more and more honey in the beehive with great attachment. A saintly mendicant should behave like the brahmara bee, because if he imitates the makshika bee, his spiritual consciousness will be ruined. This point is so important that it is repeated in this verse. Text 13. A saintly person should never touch a young girl. In fact, he should not even let his foot touch a wooden doll in the shape of a woman. By bodily contact with a woman, he will surely be captured by illusion, just as the elephant is captured by the she-elephant due to his desire to touch her body. Purport. Elephants are captured in the jungle in the following way. A large hole is dug and then covered over with grass, leaves, mud, and so on. Then a she-elephant is exhibited in front of the male elephant, who chases after her with lusty desire, falls into the hole, and is captured. The lesson to be learned from the elephant is that the desire to relish the touch sensation is certainly the cause of ruining one's life. An intelligent person, noting the elephant's great propensity to sport with the she-elephant, will take this excellent example to heart. Therefore, somehow or other, one should avoid being cheated by allurement to the sensuous form of woman. One should not allow one's mind to be lost in lusty dreams of sex pleasure. There are various types of sense gratification to be enjoyed between men and women, including speaking, contemplating, touching, sexual intercourse, etc. And all of these constitute the network of illusion by which one is helplessly bound like an animal. Somehow or other, one should remain aloof from sense gratification, any form of sex pleasure. Otherwise, there is no possibility of understanding the spiritual world. Text 14. A man possessing intelligent discrimination should not under any circumstances try to exploit the beautiful form of a woman for his sense gratification. Just as an elephant trying to enjoy a she-elephant is killed by other bull elephants, also enjoying her company, one trying to enjoy a lady's company can at any moment be killed by her other lovers who are stronger than he. Purport. Just as one is enchanted by the beautiful form of a woman, many other men will also be enchanted, and there is danger that they will be stronger than oneself and may even jealously kill one. Crimes of passion are extremely common. This is another disadvantage of material life. Text 15. A greedy person accumulates a large quantity of money with great struggle and pain. But the person who has struggled so much to acquire this wealth is not always allowed to enjoy it himself or give it in charity to others. The greedy man is like the bee who struggles to produce a large quantity of honey, which is then stolen by a man who will enjoy it personally or sell it to others. No matter how carefully one hides his hard-earned wealth or tries to protect it, there are those who are expert in detecting the whereabouts of valuable things, and they will steal it. Hare Krishna. Is this Jose?
Yes, sir.
Nice to see you again. Hare Krishna. Hare Bo. Wrestler, boxer, boxer, wrestler.
Unlimited fighter, so he knows different.
Oh man, he do one of those things, the unlimited things?
I do it all, yes, sir.
Wow. Okay. Don't try to practice on me. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. Such a gentle soul, though, to take that. It's interesting. Purport. One may argue that a wealthy man may conceal his money so expertly by investing it in banks, stocks, properties, and so on, and that there is no danger of theft. Only foolish people actually hide money by burying it in the ground or placing it under a mattress. But despite the fact that the majority of the world's wealth has been accumulated in highly developed capitalistic countries, these countries are being severely challenged by many enemies who threaten at any moment to overrun the capitalists and steal their wealth. Similarly, we often find that children of wealthy people are kidnapped, and then their parents must pay huge ransoms. Sometimes the parents themselves may also be kidnapped. Furthermore, there are also so-called investment counselors who are expert in stealing the money of rich people. And in the modern age, governments have also become expert in stealing money by taxation. There's one guy that's in jail for life. Did you know that? I can't remember his name. It's a Ponzi scheme. What's his name? Madoff. He's still in jail. So now he's sick. And he's appealing to the courts that he's sick, so he wants out of jail. But he just ripped off so many people, amassed a huge fortune just by cheating people, Ponzi schemes. Thus, furthermore, there are so-called investment counselors who are expert in stealing the money of rich people. And in the modern age, governments have also become expert in stealing money by taxation. Thus, the word artavit indicates one who by hook or by crook is expert in stealing the hard-earned wealth of other people. The bees work frantically to produce honey, but they will not enjoy their honey. As Lord Krishna states, Mrityu sarva haraschaham, I will come as death personified and steal everything. Bhagavad Gita 10:34. Somehow or other, one's hard-earned material opulence will be stolen, and therefore is mentioned in this verse, one should not work uselessly like the foolish honeybee. Text 16. Just as a hunter takes away the honey laboriously produced by the honeybees, similarly, saintly mendicants, such as brahmacharis and sannyasis, are entitled to enjoy the property painstakingly accumulated by householders dedicated to family enjoyment. Purport. The scriptures state saintly mendicants in the sannyas order of life and brahmacharis have first right to enjoy the sumptuous food prepared by the householders. So take note, all the householders, take note. Oh, Krishna. Can't take advantage of that. If the householders enjoy such food without first offering it in charity to the mendicants, such neglectful householders must undergo the lunar fast called Chandrayana. In family life, one must overcome the natural tendency towards selfishness by giving abundant charity. Modern society foolishly does not observe such Vedic injunctions, and as a result, The world has become overrun by envious grihamedis, or persons wholly and solely dedicated to personal gratification in family life. Therefore, the whole world is seized in an uncontrollable spasm of violence and suffering. If one wants to live peacefully, one must follow the Vedic injunctions regulating family life. Although the householders work very hard to accumulate money, the saintly sannyasis and brahmacharis have the right to first enjoy the fruits of such labor. The conclusion is that one should first give priority to spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness and thus perfect one's life. Then, even without personal endeavor, one will be supplied all of one's necessities by the mercy of the personality of Godhead. Text 17. A saintly person dwelling in the forest in the renounced order of life should never listen to songs or music promoting material enjoyment. Rather, a saintly person should carefully study the example of the deer, who is bewildered by the sweet music of the hunter's flute and is thus captured and killed. Purport. If one becomes attached to the sense gratification of materialistic music and songs, one will develop all the features of material entanglement. One should hear Bhagavad Gita, or the song sung by the Supreme Lord. Text 18. Becoming attracted to the worldly singing, dancing, and musical entertainment of beautiful women, even the great sage Rishashringa, the son of a deer, fell totally under their control, just like a pet animal. Purport. Rishashringa was intentionally brought up by his father in an atmosphere of complete innocence. The father thought that if his son were ever exposed to the sight of women, he would always remain a perfect brahmachari. But by chance, the inhabitants of the neighboring kingdom, who were suffering from a long-term drought, received divine advice that rain would return to their kingdom only after the Brahmana named Rishashringa set foot in it. Therefore they sent beautiful women to Rishashringa's hermitage to entice him and bring him back with them. Since Rishashringa had never even heard about women, he easily fell for their trap. He couldn't even recognize that they were women. There was a very far out little description of that. The name Rishashringa indicates that the young sage was born with a deer-like horn growing out of his forehead. If like the deer, a rishi becomes attracted to sweet musical sounds promising sense gratification, then like the deer, he is quickly vanquished. A thoughtful person should humbly take instruction from the deer, who is doomed by attraction to musical sense gratification. Text 19. Hey, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Francois. Nice to see you. Hare Krishna. We're reading the teachings of a great liberated person who met a king. But the liberated person looked like he was just, didn't know anything. He was just kind of laying there, walking around and not doing anything. But you are not eligible for Lord Nityananda's mercy.
No?
Yes, we just talked about this. Yes, the only qualification for this is Lord Nityananda's appearance day today. And the only qualification, his mercy is unlimited. Anyone can get his mercy and anyone can be delivered, no matter, and it flows naturally to the most fallen. But the one qualification that one has to have is the ability to bow down to God. And when you did that, I was deeply touched. I want you to know. Anyway, Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Lord Nityananda's mercy, you're getting it. wonderful. Wonderful. But that, I say it not flippantly, because there's many people become so proud nowadays from their learning and from their wealth and from their whatever, that they don't want to bow down to anybody, you know. And therefore, even though they come to kirtan, if they can't bow down, they can't chant without offense, and therefore they can't get the full mercy. Just as a fish, incited by the desire to enjoy its tongue, is fatally trapped on the fisherman's hook, similarly, a foolish person is bewildered by the extremely disturbing urges of the tongue, and thus is ruined. Just see, charity. Supreme charitable person gives up the thing that's most dear to him for the benefit of others. Hare Krishna. Similarly, a foolish person is bewildered by the extremely disturbing urges of the tongue, and thus is ruined. Purport. The fisherman places meaty bait on a sharp hook and easily attracts the unintelligent fish, who is greedy to enjoy its tongue. Similarly, people are mad after gratifying their tongues and lose all discrimination in their eating habits. For momentary gratification, they construct huge slaughterhouses and kill millions of innocent creatures. And by inflicting such atrocious suffering, they prepare a ghastly future for themselves. But even if one eats only the foods authorized in the Vedas, there is still danger. One may eat too sumptuously, and then the artificially stuffed belly will create pressure on the sexual organs. Thus one will fall down into the lower modes of nature and commit sinful activities that lead to the death of one's spiritual life. From the fish, one should carefully learn the real dangers involved in gratifying the tongue. Text 20. By fasting, learned men quickly bring all of the senses except the tongue under control, because by abstaining from eating, such men are afflicted with an increased desire to gratify the sense of taste. Purport. In South America there is a saying that when the belly is full, the heart is content. Thus, one who is eating sumptuously is jolly, and if one is deprived of proper food, one's appetite becomes even more voracious. An intelligent person, however, does not fall under the control of the tongue, but rather tries to make progress in Krishna consciousness. By accepting the remnants of food offered to the Lord, prasadam, one gradually purifies the heart and automatically becomes simple and austere. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that the business of the tongue is to gratify itself with the varieties of flavor, but by wandering in the 12 holy forests of Brajamandala, Vrindavan, one can be freed from the 12 flavors of material sense gratification. The 5... Sure, go ahead.
I was listening on the internet. The volume is a little bit low, so I don't know.
Just now? Could be.
Maybe it's louder now.
We haven't gotten any, so far we haven't gotten any.
No, say something.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thanks for showing up and being our techie. Can become our techie. Quality control. Quality control. Nice. Thank you very much for that. That's why we do it. You don't know who's out there listening, you know. Hare Krishna. Okay. So we've learned that if you wander in the 12 holy forests of Brajamandala, you can be freed from the 12 flavors of material sense gratification. The 5 principal divisions of material relationships are neutral admiration, servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. The 7 subordinate features of material relationships are material humor, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. Originally, these 12 rasas or flavors of relationships are exchanged between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity in the spiritual world. And by wandering in the 12 forests of Vrindavan, one can re-spiritualize the 12 flavors of personal existence. Thus one will become a liberated soul, free from all material desires. If one artificially tries to give up sense gratification, especially that of the tongue, the attempt will be a failure. And in fact, one's desire for sense gratification will increase as a result of artificial deprivation. Only by experiencing real spiritual pleasure in relationship with Krishna can one give up material desires. Text 21. Although one may conquer all of the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it can be said that one has it cannot be said that one has controlled his tongue. Sarva's leaving. Does that mean we should stop? Or maybe
Yeah.
You have to go somewhere?
If someone is doing I have a knee problem, someone is doing Reiki on my knee.
Oh, good. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't causing people to miss something.
You
But
can leave the book here and you can, thank you.
thank you, Sarva. Thanks for your association and your steadiness. Hare Krishna. Okay. Although one may conquer all of the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has controlled his senses. However, if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all the senses. Purport. By eating, one gives energy and activity to all of the senses. And thus, if the tongue is uncontrolled, all of the senses will be dragged down to the material platform of existence. Therefore, by all means, one must control the tongue. If one fasts, then all of the other senses become weak and lose their potency. The tongue, however, becomes more greedy to taste delicious preparations. And when one finally indulges the tongue, all the other senses quickly go out of control. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur advises that one accept Mahaprasadam, or the remnants of the Lord's food, in a moderate proportion. Since the tongue's function is also to vibrate, one should vibrate the glorious holy name of the Supreme Lord and taste the ecstasy of pure Krishna consciousness. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Rasa Varjam Rasopyasya Param Drishtva Nivartate. Only by the higher taste of Krishna consciousness can one give up the deadly lower taste that keeps one imprisoned in material bondage. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that as long as one's intelligence is materially covered, one cannot understand the pleasure of Krishna consciousness. Trying to enjoy without Krishna, the living entity leaves the abode of the Supreme Lord, called Brajabhumi, and comes down into the material world, where he quickly loses control of his senses. Hey, Bhakta John.
Sorry I'm late.
That's quite all right. You are easily forgiven because you're so good and so nice. One becomes particularly victimized by the tongue, belly, and genitals, which exert intolerable pressure on the conditioned soul. These desires subside, however, when one reestablishes one's blissful relationship with the Lord, who is actually the reservoir of all pleasure. One who is attached to the taste of Krishna consciousness automatically follows all of the rules and regulations of religious life due to spontaneous attraction to Vishuddhasattva, or the mode of pure goodness. Without such spontaneous attraction, one is certainly bewildered by the pushing of the material senses. Even the beginning stage of devotional service, called sadhana bhakti, regulatory practice, is so powerful that it brings one to the platform of anartha nivritti, where one becomes free from unwanted sinful habits and gains relief from the pressure of the tongue, belly, and genitals. Thus one is delivered from the bondage of material addiction and can no longer be cheated by the allurements of the material energy. As it is said, all that glitters is not gold. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur recommends that we consider the following song written by his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Sharira avidya jal, jatendriya taikal, jive pele visaya sagade, taran madhye jivayati, lobamoyat sudurmati, toke jeta katina sangsare, Krishna badadoya moy, kori bada jiva joy, swaprasad anadelubai, senamrita pao, Radha Krishna gunagao, premidako, chaitanya nitai. O Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths to death. Somehow or other, we have fallen into this ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world, but you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us and have given us such nice prasadam just to control the tongue. Now, if we take this prasadam to our full satisfaction and glorify their lordships, Sri Sri Radha, Krishna, and in love call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda Ram Ki Jai. We say that through prayer every time we sit down to eat, but we don't really hear the English translation very often. I mean, we used to say it in English in the beginning. No one knew what the Bengali meant. We should reinstitute that, start saying it in English. What do you think? 22. O son of kings, previously in the city of Videha, there dwelled a prostitute named Pingala. Now please hear what I have learned from that lady. Text 23. Once that prostitute, desiring to bring a lover into her house, stood outside in the doorway at night, showing her beautiful form. Ah, Hare Krishna. Wow. Text 24. How have you been?
Wonderful.
Oh, good. Text 28. The prostitute felt disgusted with her material situation.
We're 25.
Oh, sorry. 25?
24?
24?
24, yes.
Well, he just read.
No, you're in 23, I believe.
No, we're in 24. I touched this screen, it went, you know? Okay. I'll read the verse before. It's only 2 lines. 23. What's happening is that a sage is teaching a king, a liberated sage, is teaching a king how he became liberated by studying different things in the material world and the lessons he learned from these things. Trees, plants, bees, mountains, rivers, and now we've come to a prostitute. Once that prostitute, desiring to bring a lover into her house, stood outside in the doorway at night, showing her beautiful form. Text 24. O best among men, this prostitute was very anxious to get money, and as she stood on the street at night, she studied all the men who were passing by, thinking, oh, this one surely has money. I know he can pay the price, and I am sure he would enjoy my company very much. Thus she thought about all the men on the street. Text 25 and 26. As the prostitute Pingala stood in the doorway, many men came and went, walking by her house. Her only means of sustenance was prostitution. Therefore she anxiously thought, maybe this one who is coming now is very rich. Oh, he is not stopping. But I am sure someone else will come. Surely this man who is coming now will want to pay me for my love, and he will probably give lots of money. Thus, with vain hope, she remained leaning against the doorway, unable to finish her business and go to sleep. Out of anxiety, she would sometimes walk out toward the street, and sometimes she went back into her house. In this way, the midnight hour gradually arrived. Text 27. As the night wore on, the prostitute who intensely desired money gradually became morose, and her face dried up. Thus, being filled with anxiety for money and most disappointed, she began to feel a great detachment from her situation, and happiness arose in her mind. Purport. It appears from these verses that on this particular night, the prostitute Pingala was not at all successful in attracting customers to her house. Being completely frustrated and disappointed, she gradually became indifferent to her situation. Thus, great suffering sometimes leads one to the path of enlightenment. Or, according to a Sanskrit proverb, disappointment gives rise to the greatest satisfaction. A prostitute had dedicated her life to satisfying the lusty desires of many men, engaging her mind, body, and words in the service of paying lovers. She completely forgot the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus her mind was most unsteady and disturbed. Finally, being completely frustrated, her face and throat drying up, she began to feel indifferent to her situation, and happiness arose in her mind. Text 28. The prostitute felt disgusted with her material situation, and thus became indifferent to it. Indeed, detachment acts like a sword, cutting to pieces the binding network of material hopes and desires. Now please hear from me the song sung by the prostitute in that situation. Purport. The network of material desires is created when one falsely thinks that he can establish himself permanently in the material world. This binding network should be cut by the sword of detachment. Otherwise, one will be forced to wander in the illusory network of Maya, with no understanding of liberated life on the spiritual platform. Text 29. O King, just as a human being who is bereft of spiritual knowledge never desires to give up his false sense of proprietorship over many material things, Similarly, a person who has not developed detachment never desires to give up the bondage of the material body. Text 30. The prostitute Pingala said, "Just see how greatly illusioned I am. Because I cannot control my mind, just like a fool, I desire lusty pleasures from an insignificant man." Purport. In material existence, all of the senses are attracted by different objects, and thus the conditioned soul becomes a first-class fool. The cause of material life is one's indifference to the absolute truth. Shall I repeat that? Oh, all right. The cause of material life is one's indifference to the absolute truth. The conditioned soul considers himself to be the Lord and an enjoyer of the material world, and considers the purpose of life to be sense gratification. The more one tries to enjoy the material world, the more one's illusion increases. It appears from this verse that the prostitute Pingala was not only earning her livelihood through prostitution, but was actually enjoying her illicit contact with innumerable men. The words kantad asatak indicate that she was freely selling herself without discrimination to the most ordinary and useless men, considering them to be lovers. Thus she says, "I was a great fool." The word balisha means one who has a childish mentality without practical experience of right and wrong. Text 31. "I am such a fool that I have given up the service of that person who, being eternally situated within my heart, is actually most dear to me. That most dear one is the Lord of the universe, who is the bestower of real love and happiness, and the source of all prosperity. Although he is in my own heart, I have completely neglected him. Instead, I have arrogantly, ignorantly served insignificant men who can never satisfy my real desires and who have simply brought me unhappiness, fear, anxiety, lamentation, and illusion." Purport. Pingala laments that she chose to serve most sinful, useless men. She falsely thought they would bring her happiness and neglected to serve the actual Lord of the heart, Krishna. She could understand how foolishly she had struggled for money, not knowing that the Supreme Lord is always inclined to award prosperity to his sincere devotee. The prostitute was proud of her ability to please men, but she now laments that she did not try to please the Supreme Lord by loving service. The Supreme Lord is completely aloof from the transactions of the material world. Lord Krishna is the actual enjoyer of everyone and everything, but one must learn how to please the Lord by pure devotional service. Text 32. "Oh, how I have uselessly tortured my own soul. I have sold my body to lusty, greedy men who are themselves objects of pity. Thus practicing the most abominable profession of a prostitute, I hoped to get money and sex pleasure." Purport. The art of prostitution is based on awakening the enjoying propensity in men. Apparently this prostitute was so foolish that she maintained a romantic conception of her profession and was actually trying to enjoy loving affairs with her customers, not realizing that they were the lowest of men with the most abominable motives. Like the prostitute, Pingala, one should understand that by giving up the devotional service of the Lord, one simply becomes a victim of the illusory energy and suffers greatly. Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll stop here. Text 33. and we'll take a few minutes of reflection. Further discussion? Questions?
Who was telling the story of Pingala? Was it her narrative or
No.
you?
There was a liberated soul, and he was met by a king named Yadu, who, by the way, is a very famous king because Krishna comes in the Yadu Vangsha, the Yadu dynasty. So the king was very advanced spiritually, and even though this person looked like he was not very together, he looked like just a wandering madman. But Radha could tell this guy knew a lot because he knew physiognomy. It's a science, spirit, Ayurvedic science or Vedic science, physiognomy. So he looked and he saw this person knows a lot. And so he started to inquire of him, how did you get all this knowledge? And he said, I got it from my gurus. And then he explained how there were 24 gurus that he learned from. And this prostitute was one of them, Pingala. Yeah. You know, the ocean, the mountains, the bumblebee, the honeybee.
Does he tell their story too?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. It's very deep and very, very refreshing and purifying and satisfying. Satisfies the spiritual intelligence.
I believe scholar by the name of Eckhart Tolle would agree with Pingala. In the beginning of his book, The Power of Now, he says that it was under a moment of great duress and stress in his life where he just was suddenly realized the illusion that is, and he was liberated.
Yes, correct.
Thank you, Patrick.
That's one half of it. It's one half of it. Yeah. What we want is that liberation to become eternal, not just in this life, eventually.
Must one suffer to be liberated from this material world?
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
Generally, yes. But like I said, that's only half of it. You know, because she felt disgusted, you know, with what she was doing, and she could understand that it wasn't satisfying her. But she also was a devotee, and she actually took up pure devotional service and absorbed herself in devotional service.
So you can replace the desire with higher taste.
Well, you can't give up desire. You have to change the desire. You can't give up the desire. You have to change it. As long as we are thinking that we're the body, then we cannot give up material desire. You know, our material existence is what's the word? Founded on material conceptions. Material conceptions of ourselves, of the world around us, what is right and wrong, where we came from, what the purpose is, where we ultimately go when we leave our bodies, etc., etc., etc. But ultimately, we need relationship. Every single person needs personal relationship. That's why we're social. The living beings are social animals. Even animals, they're social. They gather together. So, in the spiritual world, you know, which is the prototype of this place is just a reflection or an amalgamation, as it says in the scriptures. The Lord's form, you know, and energy amalgamates, you know, the what's the word? Information, content that's needed to, just like in the woman's womb, which is a really marvelous machine. Woman's womb can create a human body. I mean, it's a factory like no other factory. There's no other machine like the human form. It's the most intricate, most complex form. And what a wonderful thing that all the woman has to do is just eat. Of course, first she has to have unite with women, but conception. But then she just eats, and and just by eating and being careful, there's rules and regulations for it, and then human body comes out. I mean, that's, if that ain't something.
It's a summary of biology at its finest.
Exactly, exactly. And in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, there's a description by Kapila Dev of what actually happens within the womb day by day. It's amazing. And it's all been confirmed by scientific advancement and being able to look inside and all the things that they do.
My brother is suffering right now, quite difficult. It's like very difficult right now for him. And the only thing I can think of right now is his spiritual and conscious journey. And I have so many questions. For example, how to even help one who is so immersed in the illusion.
This is Lord Nityananda's appearance day.
Yes.
Very special day. You might have heard of it. And his mercy is unlimited, and it flows naturally down to the most fallen. But there's one qualification that one needs, and that's the ability to bow down. Because material nature tends to make us proud, and we don't want to bow down to anybody, actually. And a materialistic person doesn't want to bow down to anybody, would speak of God. But if we have that humility, so the purpose of this thing that Pingala is going through, and the purpose that we go through in going through life after life after life in material existence, is to really realize at the end, you just can't get it. You can't get it yourself. We're forced. We're forced to surrender. And because we don't want to surrender, the force of trying to surrender, being forced to surrender, causes us to be resentful.
Sick.
But then what Krishna does, he's so merciful that he keeps making it more difficult and more difficult until finally, we're willing to bow down.
Wow.
And that first prayer, oh Lord, I remember when I was a kid, I did something real bad or real wrong. And when I got into bed, I'd say the Lord's Prayer, and forgive us our trespasses, and we forgive those who trespass against us, and all those things. And I think because I did that as a habit, later on I could kind of say, oh yeah, what am I doing? There are mantras that are given to people who can't stop eating meat, that if they do it properly, they will stop. There's a mantra that they say. They look the animal in the eye and a knife. They cut the throat. And they say a mantra. And the mantra means, now I'm killing you for food, and next lifetime you can kill me for food.
Wow.
If you do that a few times, and do like that act with that combination, you get the message.
Understand.
You get the message after a while.
Wow.
Yes, Francois.
Is there a difference between eating plain meat and fish? Because I read somewhere that it's more acceptable to eat fish.
Well,
than
in
to
some
eat-
places, such as Bengal, they have a saying that the fish are the fruit of the ocean. And therefore they think they're vegetarians. No, here's the thing. If you, thank you so much. Thank you. If you eat things that are created from blood and semen and flesh, then you will not be able to understand spiritual life. Because even unconsciously, you will be affected. You'll be your life will be complicated by reactions. And the body, if as long as you're eating meat, fish or eggs, even eggs, because it's embryonic form of life. It's made from the blood and so on of the chicken. And the fish the same.
If I may.
Yeah, what we're going to do before we, just give me 1 second. We're in the process of winding down because, we're learning from our guru, Nitya, that there's a program pretty soon. And she's like, starting
She
just...
wants me to put her clothes on.
He has to help me with my sari.
Oh,
You said something powerful, Maharaj, about spiritual realization.
before we do this, we're gonna shut down the live stream.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we pray that all of you out there in Cyberland are having wonderful Nityananda Trayodasi, worshipping Lord Nityananda, chanting the holy names, bowing down to his transcendental form, wherever you are. And we will see you tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Saturday? We'll see you tomorrow night. We're stopped now because there's a program going on in the temple and everyone wants to get over there. And Nitya, the Universal Mother, is hurting us all over there. So, we get carried away sometimes. So we're going to stop here. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. The teachings of the Avaduta Brahmana ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow at 6 o'clock Central Time, USA. Hari Bol. Bye.